stuff that I really started knowing you for was when Jamal and then Helter Skelter.
Yeah.
So Jamal, if I remember correctly, came out first, but what made you move or relocate or station in Atlanta to be involved with that? And then Helter Skelter, was it all Doc?
D.O.C? That was all Doc. Doc had moved to Atlanta a few years before. And then when Giant Records came and offered him a deal, he said, the only person that could do this is you. And they paid me a ton of money to even say that I had to fly to LA first to sit down with the executives at Giant, because everybody knew who I was, because of course I didn't come out of just nowhere. I was helping with Dre stuff before that. So I had a name in LA, but they were still like, we need to see why we would give you control of $1 million budget to, you know, when your name hasn't been on any records, even though, I mean, I had already worked with the Jacksons, everybody. And so I came there strapped. Like, I did this whole big old presentation. You know, back then the record labels had the big systems in their offices. So we went into their little room and we played this shit. I made sure I had it mixed where it was loud and panning everywhere. And they gave me something like 75 G's just for coming out there. Then they gave me another 100 and some G's to start doing the record. Then they gave me a monthly pay to do it. So I'm like, yeah, I'll do whatever the fuck you want to do. And that was move to Atlanta. And my other son, Reason, that has an album out now, he wasn't even walking yet. But I took him to Atlanta with me, and he learned how to walk and talk while we were doing Helter Skelter. So when you hear on From Ruthless to Death Row, when Doc says Neon Dion at the beginning of that, that's because my son was looking through the booth glass, bobbing his head, looking at Doc. He loved to see Doc on the mic. So Doc was talking to him. And so when I was there, we blocked out DARP studio, Dallas Austin studio. It was blocked out for us for 8 months, the A studio. And I used to virtually sleep up there. And because of that, Dallas Austin used to come in and listen to some of the music I was working on. And somehow Jamal started hanging in the studio with me every single day. Like, he became my little brother. And D.O.C. was out getting drunk in the strip clubs and all that all the time. This is something he's sharing now, so I'm not putting him on blast. We're working on a documentary right now about Doc's life, and so this is part of that. And so he'd be gone, and Jamal would come in and freestyle 3/16s for me. That's how I built Helter Skelter. That's a story behind the scenes nobody knows. I built these tracks before Doc's songs were written, thanks to Jamal coming in and freestyling 3/16s for me on every beat every day. That kid could freestyle better than anybody to this day, better than anybody I know. And so he would come when I needed him to stop, I just do this, he'd stop, start again when the next verse come in. And so I built all the sounds around that. Because Dallas heard us doing that, all chances, no breaks, or whatever Jamal's album's name was, it was done.
Last Chance, No Breaks.
Yeah, that album was done. But me and Jamal worked so well, Dallas asked me to do another track for it. Paid me pretty good. And then George Clinton was coming in and out of my sessions. So that's how we got him on there. And then I did a record for George Clinton in return. And then George Clinton did some things on Helter Skelter for me in return. Then some other stuff that didn't get released, I also did work for Mr. Malik on his solo album that never came out. He did a video, but the album didn't come out. So Dallas paid me to produce for both of them as a result of how Jamal was so focused on being in the studio with me all the time, he wasn't out getting in trouble. Jamal was a really troubled kid. And Dallas and them saw, damn, this motherfucker is up here with E every day. So they laced me for keeping him focused.
So the name Illegal was not a joke?
Not at all a joke. That shit is serious business. And shout out to Jamal and Mr. Malik. They are back together, and we are working on a new Illegal record, like coming up in the next few weeks.
Congratulations, man. That's big.
Yeah.
Okay. So you're in Atlanta and you're now, you know, LA is one thing, but things are starting to actually come out. Jamal actually came out. Unfuckwittable actually comes out.
Yeah.
It's the last song on the album. George Clinton's on it. Working with Dallas Austin. It's a major label. All this stuff. Given that you were there already working on Helter Skelter, did it still affect other things you were doing or other ideas you had now that, oh, I got a placement on a record that really came out. It's a big record. It's not a regional thing. This is a national release.
Well, you know, I was on records that came out before that with the NWAs and all of that kind of stuff. But the first records that have my name credited as a producer,
Well, that's
yes,
you know what I mean.
yeah, that made a difference. It made a difference because that happened because it became apparent to everybody in the music game, Helter Skelter was going to have my name on it. So Helter Skelter was the catalyst for everything that happened for me in Atlanta. The Breed album, the Jamal album. The coolest story I have to say about Unfuckwittable is when we did that record. I was here in Dallas. We were doing the last bit of Helter Skelter. I think Dre had put a cease and desist on the track Doc wanted to use, thank God, because I didn't want to use any of Dre's music. And we had to go in the studio here in Dallas to remake those songs. I get a call in the studio. I don't give out the studio phone number. So the engineer's calling me to the phone like, you got a phone call. I get a phone call. It's Eric Sermon. And he's like, hey, man, that Unfuckwittable is crazy. I will never forget what he said. He said, you are the only producer right now that's motivating me to do new shit. That's another reason why I never hesitate to go into other directions, because when you have people of that caliber hitting you up saying, hey, you are inspiring me, don't stop. That meant a lot. He also dropped a request on me. He was like, that Unfuckwittable is dope. I know you're doing Mr. Malik. Please don't let him come out rapping like a West Coast rapper. Please let him stay East Coast. And I'm like, bet, I got you. But to me, Malik was rapping like Tretch already. He wasn't rapping like Snoop. He was rapping like Tretch on the shit that we did.
Right.
Super fast. And so Helter Skelter, just having my name associated with that, did a lot for my career. I actually turned down a lot of deals. People might think I may have gotten lost in the sauce or whatever, but I'm getting exactly what I want out of the game. I can work anytime I want, because you know the business is you're as good as your last record. I haven't done any records that were trash. So anytime I want to reach out to somebody, I normally can become a part of a project with no problem. I can go in the studio with Dre tomorrow if I want to. And I love that, but I wanted to be here for my children. I didn't need the fame, I just needed the money, and I needed the artistic outlet. So as long as music is coming out for me, the money is a consequence. And so that's what Helter Skelter did for me at that time, and I was able to foster relationships that kept that going. Big John Platt wanted to give me $1 million publishing deal. Dallas Austin helped facilitate that. Dallas flew to LA for me specifically to introduce me to his publishers. So, you know, I had people in the game, man, thanks to my attitude about just let's get the work done. It always helps me out. So even today, Helter Skelter opens doors for me, no matter whether I was a part of the Chronic or Niggas for Life. I understand people don't see the credits, so they go with what they know. They go with what they see, which is unfortunate because it doesn't erase all the hours I put into work in these studios. But it's good with me because I still got all those relationships. I don't blame Dre Finney. He wasn't in control of any of the stuff that was going on in the 90s. And so, yeah, that time in Atlanta, man, it solidified my whole career in a sense, because I already had LA as a home away from home. Now I got another music capital as a home away from home. And every time I do a record for somebody in Chicago or somebody in Flint, I can go there and set myself up. So that's what I do. And when I find an artist that I want to produce, 6'2", for example, got him a deal with no problem, just off of, oh, E doing the music, come on over to Aftermath.
Yeah.
So as long as I got that, I'm good.
Well, before we get to 6'2", I did want to ask you MC Breed, because I think he's one of the most interesting and important rappers that almost no one talks about. Being
Yes.
being from Flint, going down to Atlanta, setting up shop, and really helping popularize what was going on in there, and adapting and changing his sound, and being part of that. And obviously, you were integral with that as well for part of his career. So for you, what for you made Breed somebody that you worked with and somebody that was good for you, and DFC as well, of course, but
Yeah.
Breed in particular? But what made him like, yo, I want to, work with this guy, and what made him special?
The crazy thing about the Breed situation was originally Breed had to be talked into working with me. Like he loved my music, but he was like, he sound too much like Dre. I don't want Dre stuff. And I used to try to explain to him, like, me and Dre worked together when we developed this sound. I don't sound like him. We just both like the same type of shit. And so he kept saying that. And then one day I made a track and wrote some lyrics that made him go, oh, I need that song. So I don't think that people understand. Not only did I produce records for Breed, but I wrote a lot of the lyrics that Breed rapped on the records I produced. If I wrote it, I wrote the whole song, even the ad-libs. And Breed just, he was living here in Dallas for a while. And so while he was living here, he was managed by the same dude that was managing Vanilla Ice. So we were already all a family. And then when they brought Breed in, Rodney G was co-managing. There's Rodney G again. He brought us together. My initial interaction with Breed was I had put his live show together for him. And I became known for that a little bit in the game. Where if you want your live show to be something spectacular, I'm going to do it and give you, I would do remixes of their biggest songs, but that were close enough to the original, but still had something new in them so they could spring it on their crowds. And Breed fell in love with that. And I remember when he first asked me to do a record for him, this was after Helter Skelter. Him and D.O.C. are born on the same day, and so they're like brothers. And so he was here visiting Doc, and somehow in that moment, me and Doc became a writing and production team. So me and Doc have gone on to write and me produce other acts that we help get record deals and shit like that too. And that was the beginning of that. He had Doc writing, but then they both started going to the strip club at night while I'm producing. So I told you, I already got the idea for the song. So when I do a beat, I just sit there and write it. Then I own the studio, so I rap it right after I write it. When Breed gets in the studio, it's a whole song. And so he would just take over, change the voice out. Like Floating Through the Cosmos, I wrote that. That's why my voice is on the beginning, because we kind of like just chopped some of my words out. The words he's saying, I was saying, and the words I'm saying was part of that. I just chopped it where it sounded like we were going back and forth. I wrote Do Shot. I wrote a lot of the records that me and Breed did together. And that was just because I developed, I guess Breed developed a trust in me watching how I work, my work ethic.
Yeah.
And Breed was bigger than in the game than people think. Breed fed a lot of us when money was slow and whatnot. Breed had a flow at Ichiban that wouldn't turn off. So Tupac, he needed money. He come down here. We all get together and work. Scarface need money. He come down there. We get together and work. All Breed would just tell us all, tell me, go into Ichiban, tell them what you want. I'm going to sign off on it. And that's how Breed, Warren G, Breed kept us all kind of going in our tough times. You know what I'm saying? Until we had the next major deal coming up.
Be sure to check out the History of Gangsta Rap by Soren Baker. He's official.
History of Gangsta Rap features exclusive interviews with Ice-T, Snoop Dogg, MC Ren, the D.O.C, and dozens of others. The History of Gangsta Rap, a definitive look at how Los Angeles changed rap forever.
In Los Angeles, the streets definitely set the tone of the hip-hop music.
At 19, I got a $50,000 car.
My whole angle always was, I'll be street, but I will always tell you the horrors that go along with this life.
It would be penalties and casualties for just wearing the wrong color in somebody's neighborhood.
And once gangster rap made it from the streets to the TV, the genre exploded.
With Fab 5 on Yo MTV Raps with NWA.
Yo MTV, it just catapulted us from being local heroes to national gangbang rappers.
The history of gangster rap discusses it all from 1980 up till today.
It's always gonna be shit happening in the streets. You know what I mean? So it's always gonna be something to talk about.
The history of gangster rap in stores now.